Hey guys, what's up? It's Finch here. We're back for another video on Pokemon Showdown's flagship metagame of Scarlet and Violet Overused. In the last video, we discussed the tiering radar, where we listed 8 Pokemon, as you see on your screen, that are worthy of discussion to potentially be banned and or suspected in the future. As we did for the last 2 radars, we had ultimately a council vote on these 8 Pokemon. A council vote is kind of like a mini suspect in a sense that the 9 people in the council will be voting on the fate of the Pokemon. However, unlike a normal vote or a suspect vote, you don't need a normal majority or a supermajority like the Translation suspect has had. Quite on the contrary, you need over 2/3, over 66.7% support to be precise. Meaning that not 5 or 6 out of the 9 members, but 7 out of the 9 members have to vote for a ban. This means that you are going to need near unanimous, meaning 7, 8, or a full 9 out of 9 people supporting something, essentially meaning that there's a universal sentiment that something should happen or it should even be banned immediately. In this instance, 3 Pokemon received above the 66.7% threshold. Annihilape got 8 out of 9 votes, Chi-Yu got 9 out of 9 votes, and Cyclizar got 7 out of 9 votes. However, Chien-Pao, Dragonite, and Gholdengo got no votes, while Garganacl only got 2 votes, and Espathra got 4 votes, meaning both of those Pokemon will remain in the tier alongside Dragonite and Gholdengo and Chien-Pao, while Annihilape, Chi-Yu, and Cyclizar are banned. And let me reiterate that again. So the basic premise of this video is that Annihilape's banned, Chi-Yu's banned, and Cyclizar are banned from Scarlet and Violet Overused. Let's go ahead and go through them one by one. Annihilape is one of the strongest Pokemon in the metagame. It has the move Rage Fist, which boosts by 50 base power every time Annihilape takes an attack. Couple this with pretty respectable bulk and the ability to potentially terastallize into a different type makes it so that Annihilape is very troublesome, hard to stop for both bulky teams and even offensive teams depending on the context. There are no true counters necessarily to Annihilape, but there are cores that can potentially minimize it, wear it down. It's true that other sets, such as the lead set, can potentially gain some ground earlier on in the game, or Resto Chesto can potentially finesse around certain forms of counterplay, rest off damage you face from offensive Pokemon, and sweep teams outright, and so on and so forth. But more often than not, we're seeing the set running consisting of leftovers with special defense investment and taunt, bulk up, drain punch, and rage fist. Generally speaking, it has Terra type as water or even fire, as it gives a lot of neutral coverage, and also it helps it do well into things it commonly encounters. However, there are other options that we see sometimes too. Things like Fairy, for example. Even Dark to help with Shadow Ball. With this set, the taunt set is particularly good because against bulkier Pokemon such as Amoonguss, Toxapex, Ting-Lu, Rotom Wash, Garganacl, they cannot inflict status, go for haze, or try and phase it out, or anything like that. Even other setup Pokemon like Dragonite, or slower Annihilape, or Iron Defense Garganacl, for example, cannot. Taunt forces them to attack directly, and weak or unboosted attacks are something that basically powers up Annihilape while it shrugs off the damage and negates a good portion of it with leftovers, or even all of it depending on how many defense boosts it might have from bulk up. Obviously, Annihilape is something that you can kill, and you could even potentially overwhelm or revenge kill, especially if it cannot terastallize or is not terastallizing. Things like Iron Valiant do a great job at this. However, being able to Terra into a type that can potentially resist or neutralize something means that suddenly your fast, frail attacker is giving your 50 more base power on your Rage Fist and risking that, coupled with the fact that Annihilape again has pretty good bulk. This makes it so that Annihilape is able to hold its own and even potentially overperform against offense, but more importantly, the taunt bulk up set is really drastically good into bulky or balanced teams. Right now, balanced teams tend to be very particular, very suffocated due to Pokemon like Annihilape, really making it so that they need oddly specific cores. Things like Rocky Helmet Garchomp with Dragon Tail, that you can't taunt Dragon Tail, plus like Salt Cure Garganacl with Terra Fairy, for example. That core combined can more or less minimize Annihilape, but that's 2 team members, and one of which is not particularly common, another which running a Terra type it has to use, things like that. However, a lot of teams, if they don't go out of their way and dedicate 1 or multiple slots to Annihilape, can potentially fall to it and even have a lot of mind games where if I stay in on the taunt, I'm crap out of luck, or if I switch an attack, I'm crap out of luck. If it bulks up on a mid-ground, I'm crap out of luck. Things like that. Ultimately, it's not something you could be really consistently safe against, and it's not even a matter of outplaying so much as it's just a matter of trying to minimize collateral in the sense of a game where a Pokemon is just given too much opportunity for the offensive presence it carries, if you will. It's really tough because Annihilate obviously is a great Pokemon, and a lot of people did enjoy its design and the evolution within that line. However, I do see it something that's a candidate that can return for release when Pokemon Home is released later this generation. If not then, maybe even sometime later on. But ultimately, for now, Annihilate is definitely too much for the metagame. Only one person voted against the ban, and it was pretty heavily speculated that it would get removed. So I guess it's not a big surprise here. Speaking of things that are not big surprises, next up we have Chi-Yu. It got unanimously banned. We really could go on and on about how absolutely ridiculous, how egregious Chi-Yu is. It's probably the most broken Pokemon that didn't get banned initially, and it got banned unanimously as a result of that and a testament to that sentiment. Chi-Yu's 135 base special attack is bolstered far more by the fact that it has Juice of Ruin, which is able to make it essentially have 197 base special attack. Couple this with specs, makes it even stronger, but can't even check it with things like Blissey. Only Tyranitar can check it, or Scarf, and suddenly it becomes an absolute menace to offensive teams as it outruns them with respectable base 100 speed coupled with that Scarf. You can also run nasty plot sets with either Flame Charge to boost speed or Terra Blast to bolster coverage as well. All in all, making it so that Chi-Yu is a well-rounded wrecking machine. In terms of universal counterplay to it, the only thing I really see is things like Tyranitar and maybe even Dash Bun a little bit, but they're not very good in this metagame, especially in Dash Bun's chances. Tyranitar even has fallen to Yu-Yu, so needless to say, many teams are ill-prepared for Chi-Yu in this metagame. It is just a touch too strong to be reckoned with and consistently checked. Pair it with Sun Team for added choice specs onto it, and again, it's virtually uncountered, coupled with the fact that it really thrives off of the pivot-heavy nature of this metagame with things like Rotom Wash, Eject Button Regenerator Pokemon, Cyclizar, Shedtail, so on and so forth. All in all, while Chi-Yu lacks physical bulk, it has respectable special bulk and some nice resistances that allow for entry when coupled with the game flow nature of the metagame, and its offensive Pokemon, offensively presence-wise, is just outright broken. There's not much that can keep it in check, and they're few and far between. It makes team building impossible and makes consistent counterplay to be an afterthought rather than a balanced reality. Next up, we're moving on to Cyclizar, the third and final Pokemon that ultimately got banned. Perhaps one of the more controversial Pokemon, one that not as many people speculated being banned, but still a lot of people did see coming. It got 4 votes initially in the first radar, 5 votes in the third, and finally it peaked getting 7 votes in the third and final radar. It will be lasting on for now. Cyclizar is the ultimate supportive Pokemon. Personally, I find it a little harder to discuss than others. I actually want to go ahead and refer to what Tala, they are a member of our council, and they have awesome insight on the metagame, and they wrote about it here, so we can discuss why Cyclizar for Shedtail and why it's being banned. The premier user of Shedtail is finally getting its due after being voted on since the start of the generation. We have exclusively voted on Cyclizar and not Shedtail, since the other user Shedtail, Earthworm, has not been as intense of a headache to play against as Cyclizar. What makes Cyclizar truly broken is its access to an acceptably high amount of utility alongside Shedtail, rabbits to knock off U-turn, taunt, useful defensive typing, and most importantly, Regenerator, alongside okay-ish bulk and high speed, allow it to make decent progress making outside of using Shedtail. I do interject, of course, Regenerator plus high speed is ideal conditions for Shedtail. Anyway, of course, Shedtail is the only reason Cyclizar is even viable in OU. The way Shedtail takes advantage of passive Pokemon or simply resisted move guessing games is second to none, providing not only a free entry for Pokemon, but potentially multiple free turns, and so a quote-unquote wrong turn is a massive misstep. With a passive Pokemon turned into death sentence against Cyclizar plus offensive threat. Cyclizar is even run often on hyper-offensive teams with screens, usually for Grimmsnarl, making Shedtail significantly harder to deal with for non-passive Pokemon. Though the universal utility and Shedtail's oppressive nature, through the universal useful utility and Shedtail's oppressive nature, Cyclizar's inability to make significant progress on its own is rendered a relatively insignificant downside, and Cyclizar became a highly broken element in the current metagame. And yeah, I agree with this wholeheartedly. I just want to kind of regurgitate some of the little key points of it, if you will. And that Cyclizar with Shedtail coupled with high speed and Regenerator can really, get that substitute pass 4, 5, 6 times in a lot of games, even when facing offensive teams, just because of the nature of Regenerator. Heals a lot, and Then it's kind of pick your poison, especially if you're against passive Pokemon. You can get a substitute up with something like a Multiscale Dragonite and a Spathra behind screens, and even the aforementioned Annihilape or Chien-Pao, things like this. And giving them a free turn already is challenging enough, but when it's behind a substitute, that's basically 2 free turns. And if they Terrasilize, that can become 3 free turns like that, and it makes it sort of, this is a really challenging Pokemon to keep in check. Obviously, it's not a user of Terrasilization, but rather it can help other Pokemon that Terrasilize, benefit more, really function in the best fashion possible. So all in all, I truly do view Cyclizar as one of the most broken supportive utility Pokemon we've ever seen. I definitely can see it as one of the more controversial, if you will, bans, just because not a lot of people grasp this. A lot of people that use more pressure oriented intensive offensive teams can maybe minimize it, but all things considered, it truly does add another layer to these teams. Not only hyper offense, but bulky offense, and it inspires pretty lazy team building where you just stack threats. I'd rather open up the metagame to more, barriers of entry for more broken threats, and so that we don't also have to ban things like a Spathra, Dragonite, Roaring Moon, Chien-Pao, things that really are beneficiaries of it and get free turns, because the truth matters is that one of the consistent threads, one of the Pokemon that is the universal support of these Pokemon is Cyclizar, and this will hopefully be one band that's kind of like addition by subtraction, and that now we're going to see more varied team structures, less lazy team building, and less other bands as well. This will probably be the last radar, and it's kind of a testament to the fact that Cyclizar being removed from the tier makes it a lot of other Pokemon just don't have that same prowess. And of course, when power creeps and less passivity exists, maybe in a home meta game, we could definitely see Cyclizar as well. It's one of the more, borderline quick bans. It definitely would have been something we'd suspect if not for this, but we had enough support to quick ban it, and we're going to move accordingly. We did not have enough support to ban anything else. A Garganacl, one of the most annoying Pokemon to deal with Terrasillation, Salt Cure, stuff like that. Got 2 votes, and a Spathra. Just the fact that Terra Fighting and Fairy Sets with Stored Power, Combine Speed Boost are phenomenal. Also got a couple of support as well, 4 votes, which puts it a little under average, but, a little under average support. I mean, like a little under 50% rather. So, yeah, but nothing else. No votes for Chien-Pao, Dragonite, or Goldengo. Yeah, so what do you guys think? We've got 3 bans from the metagame. We got Chi-Yu, we got Annihilape, and we got Cyclizar. Sorry about that. Do you guys support these bands? What do you think is next? Let me know down below. We'll probably try and get a community survey up in a week or 2 once metagame settles, so be sure to stay tuned for that. In the meantime, guys, hope you guys enjoy. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much. Okay, bye.